Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Brain, your host, and as always, I'm here with the amazing Anna. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Brain. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be with you again. I'm really excited about today's topic. It's something a lot of learners don't realize is possible, but it totally is.
Absolutely. Today we're talking about something powerful, how to rewire your brain for English. Now, that might sound like science fiction, but it's actually something very real, very practical, and something you can start doing today.
Exactly. If you've ever felt like English just doesn't come naturally to you or like you always have to translate in your head before you speak, this episode is for you.
We're going to explore what it really means to rewire your brain, how your brain responds to language learning, and most importantly, how to train it to think in English.
And don't worry, we're not going into a neuroscience lecture. This is all going to be easy to understand and super practical. Whether you're just starting or already on your English journey, these tips will help you take things to the next level.
So grab your coffee, your notebook, or just your headphones, and let's dive into the science, the mindset, and the habits behind rewiring your brain. So Anna, let's start with a big question. Why do learners even need to rewire their brains for English? I mean, can't they just keep learning new words and grammar rules?
That's a great question, Brain. And honestly, that's what most people try to do. They focus only on memorizing vocabulary, studying grammar, doing exercises, but they forget one important thing. Your brain is still operating in your native language.
Right? And if your brain is wired to think in your native language first, then translate everything into English. It's like trying to drive with the brakes on.
Exactly. It slows you down, creates hesitation, and causes mistakes. You're not speaking freely, you're translating. And that makes English feel unnatural or even stressful.
This is something we see all the time, especially with intermediate learners. They understand a lot of English, but when it's time to speak, they freeze. Their brain is stuck switching between two languages.
And that's why rewiring your brain is so important. When you train your brain to think in English even a little, you start to speak faster, with more confidence, and with less effort.
You know, I like to compare it to a musician. Imagine trying to play the piano, but every time you touch a key, you have to stop and think, wait, what note is this again? You'll never play smoothly.
That's such a good example. Fluency is about flow, and flow comes from automatic thinking. That's what rewiring is all about, building new mental habits that make English automatic.
And here's the cool part. Your brain is built for this. It's called neuroplasticity. We'll explain that more in a minute. But basically, your brain can change, grow, and create new connections.
So if you're struggling to speak, or if English feels slow and difficult, it's not because you're bad at languages. It's because your brain hasn't made those new pathways yet.
But with the right approach, the one we're going to guide you through today, you can start rewiring your brain. And once that happens, everything changes.
Learning becomes faster, speaking becomes smoother, and English starts to feel like a part of you, not something you're constantly reaching for.
So now that we know why it's so important, let's talk about what rewiring your brain actually means and how it works.
All right, so let's break it down. What does it actually mean to rewire your brain for English? Are we talking about some kind of mental surgery here, Brain?
Not quite, Anna. No surgery needed. When we say rewire, we're really talking about how the brain forms new connections. This process is called neuroplasticity, a fancy word, but a simple idea.
Neuroplasticity means your brain is flexible. It can change and adapt based on what you do repeatedly. So if you keep using your native language all day and only study English for 15 minutes at night, guess what your brain gets better at?
Exactly your native language. But if you start surrounding yourself with English, thinking in English and practicing regularly, your brain starts to build new pathways that support English use.
It's like building a new road. At first, it's just a dirt path, slow, bumpy, hard to travel. But the more you walk on it, the clearer and smoother it becomes. Eventually, it turns into a highway.
I love that image. And here's another way to think about it. Your brain is kind of like a garden. Whatever you plant and water and give attention to, that's what grows. So if you want your English brain to grow, you have to feed it English.
Yes, and one of the biggest myths is that adults can't learn languages like children do. But actually, adults can rewire their brains too. We just have to be more intentional about it.
Totally. Children are surrounded by the language, so they absorb it naturally. Adults have to create that kind of environment on purpose, but the brain is still capable of changing at any age.
So rewiring isn't magic. It's not instant, but it's real and it works. And the best part? You don't need to be a genius. You just need to be consistent and follow the right habits.
We'll get into those habits very soon. But for now, remember this. If English feels hard, it doesn't mean you're not smart. It just means your brain hasn't built the road yet.
But you can build it. One step at a time, one day at a time. And every time you think in English, speak in English, or even try to you're rewiring your brain, little by little.
All right, coming up next, let's look at how to recognize if your brain is still wired for your native language and how to catch those old habits before they slow you down. So, Anna, now that we understand what rewiring the brain really means, let's help our listeners figure out where they are. What are the signs that someone is still using their old language wiring?
Great point, brain. The first big sign is translating everything in your head. If you hear a sentence in English and your first reaction is to translate it into your native language, your brain is still wired to think in your mother tongue.
Yes! And then you try to form a reply, but you have to translate that back into English. It's a slow, frustrating process. It's like using Google Translate for every conversation.
Exactly. And another sign is speaking slowly or hesitating often, not because you don't know the words, but because your brain is searching in your native language first, then trying to convert.
Right. It's like your brain is stuck in traffic. You know where you want to go, but the route is full of stops and delays. That's a sign the English road in your brain isn't strong yet.
Another one is vocabulary recall problems. For example, you've learned a word before, maybe even many times, but when you need it in conversation, your mind goes blank.
Yes, that usually means the word is stored in your passive memory, but it hasn't been fully connected to your speaking system. So your brain says, "Wait, I know this." What was it again? Too late, the moment passes.
Exactly. And finally, a big sign is lack of automatic response. If someone says, "How's it going?" and you have to pause and think before answering, that's another clue. Native wiring isn't automatic in English yet.
These signs don't mean you're failing. They just show that your brain is still working from its default settings, your first language. The good news is, those settings can be updated.
That's right. You just need to give your brain repeated exposure and practice in English, and it will start to adapt. It always does if you give it the right input.
So don't worry if you recognize some of these signs in yourself. Most learners go through this phase. The important thing is knowing it's a phase, not a life sentence.
Exactly. And in the next section, we're going to give you the step-by-step process to start rewiring your brain and breaking those old habits. You're going to love it.
All right, so now comes the part that everyone's been waiting for, the step-by-step process to actually rewire your brain for English.
Yes, this is where things get exciting because these steps are simple, doable, and they work. So let's dive right in. The first and most powerful step is immersion. That means surrounding your brain with English every single day.
And no, you don't need to move to an English-speaking country to do that. You can create your own English world right at home. Change your phone settings to English. Watch YouTube videos, listen to English podcasts, even talk to yourself in English.
Yes, because the more your brain hears English, the more familiar and natural it becomes. It's like teaching your brain, hey, this is our new normal.
Step 2 is a big one, thinking in English. This doesn't mean thinking in full, perfect sentences. Start small. Describe what you see. Name objects. Say what you're doing.
Exactly. You can think I'm brushing my teeth or where's my phone. These little moments train your brain to stop translating and start processing directly in English.
It feels strange at first, but keep doing it even for 5 minutes a day, and soon it becomes easier.
Step 3 is about learning English through English. Try to avoid using your native language as a crutch. Use English dictionaries, English subtitles, and English explanations.
This step really forces your brain to stay in English mode. It builds strong direct connections between English words and their meaning instead of bouncing back and forth with translation. Next, speak out loud every day. Even if there's no one to talk to, just speak to yourself.
This helps connect your thoughts to your voice in English. You can narrate your day, repeat phrases you hear in shows, or even read aloud. The key is train your mouth and brain together.
That's how fluency is built, not just with knowledge, but with muscle memory. Speaking out loud builds that connection.
Rewiring doesn't happen in a day, it happens through repetition. That means practicing the same words, phrases, and habits again and again.
Consistency is more important than perfection. You don't need to study for hours. Even 20-30 minutes a day is powerful if you do it every day.
Yes, it's like going to the gym. One big workout won't change your body, but regular steady training, that rewires your brain over time.
Another smart step is to focus on phrases, not just single words. Your brain remembers patterns better than isolated vocabulary.
So instead of learning the word go, learn the phrase go to the store or go for a walk. These become language chunks that your brain can use quickly.
It's like giving your brain ready-made tools instead of trying to build every sentence from scratch.
This one's often forgotten, but it's super important. Use emotion period. Your brain remembers what it feels, so if you connect English to music you love, shows you enjoy, or stories that move you, learning sticks better.
Also, talk about your own life in English. Make it personal. If you talk about things that matter to you, your brain pays more attention. And finally, don't try to be perfect. Mistakes are part of the rewiring process. They're evidence that your brain is learning something new.
Absolutely. Babies don't learn to walk by studying walking theory. They fall, they try again, and they learn by doing just like you will with English.
So to recap, 1. Immerse in English daily. 2. Think in English. 3. Learn English through English. 4. Speak out loud. 5. Repeat consistently. 6. Focus on phrases. 7. Connect emotionally. 8. Embrace mistakes.
Each of these steps helps rewire your brain little by little until English becomes natural, automatic, and part of how you think.
And that's when the real transformation begins.
In the next part, we're going to share daily habits you can build to make all of this part of your routine, so stay with us. All right, we've talked about steps, habits, and what to do, but now let's talk about how you think. Because your mindset can either speed up the rewiring process or slow it down.
Yes, and honestly, this part is huge. A lot of learners don't realize how powerful their mindset is. So let's break down a few key mindset shifts that really help. Number 1, focus on progress, not perfection. Don't wait to speak until your grammar is perfect or your accent is flawless. Just speak.
Exactly. Fluency comes from practice, not from being perfect. Every time you make a mistake, you're training your brain. It's part of the process, not a problem. Next mindset shift. English is a skill, not a school subject. You're not here to memorize rules, you're here to use the language.
Right. It's like learning to swim or ride a bike. You don't study it, you get in the water, fall, try again, and do it until it feels natural. Another one, and this is important, consistency beats intensity. 1 hour once a week won't rewire your brain, but 15 minutes every day will.
Yes, daily practice, even if it's short, builds strong neural pathways. Your brain rewires better with regular touch than with big effort once in a while. This one might sound deep, but it's powerful. Start seeing yourself as someone who speaks English.
That's right. Don't think I'm trying to learn English. Instead, think I am an English speaker, and I'm getting better every day.
When you shift your identity, your brain starts to follow. You act in alignment with who you believe you are.
So to summarize, change your mindset, and you change the speed of your progress. Focus on progress, build the skill, stay consistent, and believe in your new identity.
And with that mindset, the rewiring process becomes smoother, faster, and honestly more fun.
Coming up next, let's talk about how long rewiring actually takes and what realistic expectations you should have. You won't want to miss it. All right, we've talked about steps, habits, and mindset. Now let's get into some real practical tools and techniques that make rewiring your brain for English easier and faster.
Yes, these are like the shortcuts for your brain. They won't do the work for you, but they'll make the process a lot smoother. So let's go through them one by one. The first technique is called shadowing. You listen to a native speaker, like in a podcast or a YouTube video, and you repeat immediately after them, copying their tone, rhythm, and pronunciation.
It's like being their echo. This helps your brain and mouth sync up with natural English patterns. It trains your listening, speaking, and muscle memory all at once. Next, we've got spaced repetition tools apps like Anki or Quizlet. These use science to help you remember vocabulary by reviewing it just before you forget it.
Yes, it's one of the best ways to move words from short-term to long-term memory. And the more your brain sees those words over time, the stronger your English wiring becomes. Another great tool? Speaking partners. You can use language exchange apps like HelloTalk or Tandem to chat with real people, or even use AI tools that simulate conversation.
Exactly. The key is to speak often, even if it's imperfect. Every real conversation gives your brain a workout and strengthens your fluency. Also, try watching videos with English subtitles. This lets your brain connect spoken and written forms of the language. Start with subtitles on, then gradually turn them off.
And if you really want to level up, pause and repeat the phrases you hear or write them down. That turns passive listening into active learning. One more powerful tool: record your voice. Speak in English, record yourself, then listen back. You'll notice areas to improve, but also how much you've grown.
It's like giving your brain a mirror. The more feedback you give it, the better it rewires. So, just to recap, use shadowing for natural rhythm. Use Anki or Quizlet for vocabulary memory. Find speaking partners to practice real conversation. Watch content with subtitles to boost input, and record yourself to reflect and grow.
These tools aren't magic, but they work with your brain to make rewiring easier, faster, and more fun.
Coming up next, let's wrap it all together with some final encouragement and a challenge for our listeners to start today.
So, brain, let's give our listeners something super practical: a sample day. What does a day of brain rewiring for English actually look like?
Yes, this will help people see how easy it is to fit English into their routine. You don't need to study all day, you just need to touch English often throughout the day. Start in the morning. While getting ready or having breakfast, listen to a short English podcast, even this one.
And while listening, try to shadow a few sentences. Repeat them out loud to train your mouth and brain together. Just 5 minutes of speaking in the morning makes a big difference. In the afternoon, take a short break and do a quick vocabulary review with spaced repetition apps like Anki or Quizlet.
And think in English during daily tasks. For example, If you're cooking or walking, describe what you're doing. I'm cutting vegetables or I'm going to the market. No pressure, just practice. In the evening, watch an English video or a show with English subtitles. Choose something fun, like a vlog, short film, or comedy clip.
Then record a 1-minute voice diary in English. Just talk about your day. You can say, "Today I learned," or "I watched a video about."
Listen back and notice how your sentences are flowing. Don't judge, just observe and keep going.
So let's add it up. In just 30 to 45 minutes total spread across your day, you're actively rewiring your brain for English.
That's the secret. Not cramming, but consistent connection. Daily contact with English in small ways keeps your brain building strong language pathways.
Coming up next, our final thoughts and a little challenge to get you started today.
Before we wrap up, let's bring this all to life with some real-world stories. These are people who rewired their brains for English, and it totally transformed how they communicate.
Yes, because it's one thing to hear advice and another to see it work in real people's lives. So let's start with one of my favorite stories. Maria from Brazil used to freeze every time someone spoke to her in English. She said she would translate everything in her head, and by the time she had the answer, the conversation had moved on.
But then she committed to rewiring her brain. She used shadowing every morning for 10 minutes and recorded a voice diary every night.
6 months later, she was doing Zoom calls at work completely in English without scripts, and now she says she actually thinks in English during meetings.
Then there's Ahmed from Egypt. He's a full-time engineer and dad, so he didn't have hours to study. But he used his commute wisely.
Right. He listened to English podcasts in the car, practiced speaking with AI tools for 5 minutes at night, and thought in English while cooking dinner.
Now, he's leading international projects in English and feels confident speaking with clients. It wasn't about time. It was about daily effort.
And let's not forget Lian from China. Super shy, barely spoke English out loud, but she joined an online English speaking club just 1 hour a week.
She combined that with daily journaling and used subtitles while watching shows. After 4 months, she hosted her first English language book club online. Huge win.
So wherever you're starting from, shy, busy, stuck, remember, it's possible. These people rewired their brains step by step. You can too.
Coming up, our final thoughts and one simple challenge to help you get started today. So Anna, after everything we've talked about today, the rewiring steps, mindset, shifts, tools, and real stories. What's your final message to our listeners?
My final message? Don't wait for the perfect moment to start. Your brain is amazing. It can change, adapt, and grow right now.
Exactly. The only thing standing between you and fluent English is the first step. Start small, stay consistent, and trust the process.
Remember, every word you say, every sentence you speak is a little victory. Celebrate those wins.
You've got this. Rewire your brain and open the door to a whole new world of possibilities.
Thanks for joining us today. Keep practicing, keep believing, and we'll see you in the next episode.